Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, a story that has captivated collectors, historians, and treasure seekers alike. The story of the 2005 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has been valued at an unbelievable $70 million because of the unique combination of errors, mistakes, and remarkable features that set it apart from ordinary pennies and elevate it into the realm of priceless numismatic treasures. And as we explore this extraordinary coin, we will uncover the details of its production, the circumstances that may have led to its creation, the kinds of errors that experts believe are present, and the incredible possibilities that make it so valuable to collectors all around the world who are constantly on the lookout for rare finds like this. So whether you are a seasoned coin collector, someone just getting into the hobby, or simply a curious person intrigued by how a simple 1-cent piece could ever reach a value of $70 million, you are in for a truly amazing journey, because the 2005 D penny is not just a coin, it is a combination of history, error, rarity, and mystery, all packed into one small copper-plated zinc disc that people pass over every single day without thinking. Yet in the case of this special coin, it represents a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that has changed the way we think about modern minting and the potential hidden value of everyday pocket change. And to start with, we need to remember that the 2005 D penny was minted in Denver, one of the two major minting facilities in the United States that produces billions of coins every year. And while most of those coins are struck perfectly and released into circulation without a second thought, once in a while a mistake happens. An error coin slips through the cracks, and that is where the magic happens, because in the world of coin collecting, error coins are often considered more valuable than their flawless counterparts, since they represent anomalies that are hard to reproduce, and the 2005 D penny in question has multiple layers of such anomalies, beginning with the striking itself, where experts have noted the possibility of double die errors on both the obverse and reverse, meaning that when the coin was struck, the die may have moved slightly, causing doubling in the inscriptions, dates, or even the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, and such doubling when visible under magnification is a clear marker of rarity. But this particular penny does not stop there, because researchers and collectors who have examined it closely suggest that there may also be planchette errors involved, meaning that the blank metal disc onto which the design was struck may not have been a normal copper-plated zinc planchette at all, but possibly a transitional or experimental piece, maybe struck on a leftover copper planchette from earlier decades, or even on a foreign planchette mistakenly fed into the coining press, which immediately skyrockets the desirability and rarity, since a coin struck on the wrong metal is like a mistake frozen in time, a piece of the mint's history that should never have existed yet somehow survived the strict quality control processes. And then you add to that the possibility of off-center striking, where the design of Lincoln's head and the surrounding words like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" are not properly centered, giving the coin a dramatic appearance where parts of the design are missing or cut off. And this adds an immediate visual rarity that even non-collectors can spot, making it highly desirable. But beyond that, some experts believe that this 2005 D penny shows signs of being a multiple strike error, meaning that it was struck more than once by the coining press, leaving overlapping impressions that make the coin look almost ghostly, with faint outlines of the design appearing in unexpected places, which again is an error that should never leave the mint, yet somehow this one did. And if we imagine all of these errors combined in a single coin, we begin to understand why it could reach such astronomical value. Because while each individual type of error can add hundreds or thousands of dollars to a coin's value, having multiple major errors combined in one coin is like finding lightning in a bottle, an almost impossible occurrence that transforms the coin into a priceless artifact. And now let's talk about the historical and collector's significance of a coin like this, because while some people may scoff at the idea of paying $70 million for a penny, in the world of high-level collecting it is not just about the face value of the item. It is about the uniqueness, the story, the prestige, and the bragging rights of owning something that no one else in the world possesses. And wealthy collectors, museums, and even private investors often compete fiercely to own such treasures, driving up prices to unimaginable levels. And when we add the factor that the 2005 D penny represents a modern coin from an era when strict minting processes should have made such mistakes virtually impossible, the rarity becomes even more extreme, because era coins from older decades like the 1950s or 1960s are somewhat easier to explain due to less advanced technology, but a modern 2005 D penny slipping through with multiple errors is like a miracle, defying logic and quality control standards, making it a true standout in numismatic history. And collectors who have handled or studied this coin often talk about how its condition also contributes to its value, because not only does it contain errors, but it is also in remarkably preserved condition, possibly graded at the highest levels by professional grading services, meaning it has sharp details, lustrous surfaces, and minimal wear, which in combination with the errors turns it into a perfect storm of value. And if we think about all the different possibilities that could have occurred in the mint to create such a coin, it makes the story even more fascinating. Perhaps a misfeed of planches, perhaps a malfunctioning die, perhaps a press that struck the coin multiple times before ejecting it, or perhaps even a combination of human oversight and machine error. And the fact that this coin survived, was not caught, and eventually found its way into the hands of a collector is nothing short of extraordinary, because out of billions of 2005 D pennies produced, only one like this has ever been discovered, making it a true one-of-a-kind rarity. And this is what drives the excitement, because the thought that a simple penny in your pocket could be worth millions ignites people's imaginations and fuels the treasure-hunting spirit that has driven coin collecting for centuries. And it is not just about the monetary value either. It is about owning a piece of history, a story, a mistake that should never have happened yet did. And for the person lucky enough to possess this $70 million penny, it is like holding the rarest diamond in the world, except even rarer because unlike diamonds which exist in multiple locations, this coin is unique, unmatched, and irreplaceable. And as we continue to explore the possibilities, some collectors speculate that this penny may even contain a hidden or undocumented variety not previously catalogued, which would add even further to its mystique, because the world of coins is constantly evolving as new varieties are discovered, catalogued, and authenticated, and every new discovery rewrites the history of minting. And so in this case the 2005 D penny may represent not just an era coin but a previously unknown chapter in the history of the Denver Mint, a coin that challenges our understanding of how modern minting works and what mistakes are still possible even in an age of computers and strict oversight. And that mystery is part of what makes it so irresistible to collectors. Because it is not just a piece of metal, it is a puzzle, a story, a legend, and legends are priceless. And so when you hear that a 2005 D penny has been valued at $70 million, it may sound unbelievable. But when you piece together the rarity of the errors, the uniqueness of the strike, the historical significance, the condition, the mystery, and the sheer excitement it generates among collectors, it begins to make sense, because in the world of numismatics rarity and uniqueness are everything, and this coin has both in spades. And that is why it will continue to be talked about, studied, and admired for generations to come. And for those of you watching this, let this be a reminder to always check your change, always look at the coins in your pocket or purse, because you never know when you might stumble upon the next great discovery, the next multi-million-dollar rarity hiding in plain sight. And with billions of coins circulating, there are still treasures waiting to be found. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. Today to another fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins and hidden treasures that might be sitting right under our noses in everyday pocket change. Because today we are going to unravel the remarkable story of a coin that seems so ordinary at first glance yet has stunned collectors and experts with its astonishing value. A simple 1989 Lincoln 1-cent coin that has been valued at an unbelievable $10 million because of the combination of unique errors, striking mistakes, and mysterious anomalies that make it one of the most desirable modern rarities ever discovered. And in this long and captivating journey, we are going to break down why this particular 1989 penny has reached such unimaginable worth, what kind of errors are suspected on it, how it could have possibly been created in the mint, why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for something that most people overlook as mere change, and what this means for you as someone who could potentially come across such a treasure in circulation. So whether you are a seasoned collector who loves digging into the details of minting history, a curious beginner looking for your first rare find, or just someone who loves the thrill of discovering hidden treasures in ordinary objects, this story will keep you hooked as we explore how a 1-cent coin minted more than 3 decades ago has turned into a multi-million-dollar legend. And to begin with, let's put ourselves in the context of 1989, when the US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents in both Philadelphia and Denver. The obverse showing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse still displaying the Lincoln Memorial design, which had been in use since 1959. And like most years, these coins were intended to be ordinary circulation strikes with a composition of copper-plated zinc, a design that had been in place since 1982, when the transition away from solid copper cents occurred. But amid the billions produced in 1989, something remarkable slipped through, a coin that somehow avoided detection. And that coin carries the kind of anomalies that numismatists spend their entire lives searching for, anomalies so rare and dramatic that they transform an otherwise common penny into a treasure worth $10 million. And at the heart of the story are the errors and mistakes that make this coin so special. Because when we talk about error coins, we are not just talking about a small scratch or a little discoloration. We are talking about striking mistakes that happen during the production process, mistakes that are preserved forever in metal and cannot be replicated intentionally by counterfeiters, which is why genuine mint errors command such strong premiums. And in the case of the 1989 penny, the first error believed to exist on this piece is a dramatic double die obverse, meaning that when the die was prepared in the mint, it received two impressions that were slightly misaligned, creating doubling effects on the inscriptions like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1989 itself. And collectors love these kinds of doubling errors because they are easily visible under magnification and sometimes even to the naked eye. And the more dramatic the doubling, the higher the value. But this coin goes even further because experts suggest that it also shows signs of being struck on the wrong planchette, possibly a leftover copper planchette from before 1982, or even a foreign planchette that was mistakenly fed into the presses, which is one of the rarest and most exciting kinds of errors since it combines the wrong metal with the wrong design. And when you hold such a coin, the weight, the color, and the feel are all slightly different from a standard 1989 penny, immediately alerting experts that something unusual has taken place. And this alone could catapult the value into the hundreds of thousands. But when paired with dramatic doubling, it becomes the stuff of legend. And as if that were not enough, there are strong indications that this coin may also be an off-center strike, meaning the design of Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse are not perfectly centered on the coin, leaving portions of the design cut off and a blank crescent of planchette visible. And this adds even more uniqueness because each off-center error is literally one of a kind. No two are ever exactly the same, and depending on the degree of the off-center shift, it can become highly desirable. And when you combine an off-center strike with a wrong planchette and doubling, you are looking at a triple error coin, something almost impossible to imagine given the strict quality control in place at the US Mint. But the story does not end there, because collectors who have examined this coin claim that it also bears evidence of a multiple strike error, meaning it was struck more than once in the press before being ejected, leaving overlapping designs and ghostly outlines that add another layer of intrigue. And this combination of errors is truly what makes this 1989 penny a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Because while each of these mistakes on their own would be enough to make the coin rare and valuable, having them all appear on a single coin is like capturing lightning in a bottle, a miracle of numismatics that no one could have predicted. And this is why the coin's value has soared to an unbelievable $10 million, because rarity in the world of collecting is everything. And when you are dealing with a unique coin like this, one that no one else in the world possesses, the value is limited only by what collectors are willing to pay. And in this case, wealthy investors and passionate numismatists have bid it up to a level that boggles the mind. And when you really think about it, it makes perfect sense, because owning such a coin is not just about having a penny, it is about holding a piece of history, a mistake that should never have existed, a symbol of the mysteries that still linger even in modern minting, and the bragging rights of owning something literally irreplaceable. And beyond the technical errors, what makes the 1989 penny even more valuable is the context of its year, because 1989 was well into the modern era of coin production when the mint was supposed to have perfected its processes and eliminated the chances of major blunders, so the very existence of a coin with this many errors calls into question how it could have possibly slipped through, fueling endless speculation and fascination among collectors, and many theories have been proposed, some suggesting that a leftover copper planchette from before 1982 was accidentally stored and used, others speculating that a foreign coin blank was misfed, and still others proposing that a malfunction in the striking press caused the multiple strikes and off-center errors. But whatever the true explanation is, the mystery only adds to the allure, because people love a story, and this coin carries a story unlike any other, a tale of error, chance, and survival that has transformed it from ordinary change into a multi-million-dollar marvel. And what is even more exciting is that discoveries like this remind us that treasure hunting is not just something that happens in far-off lands or deep in the oceans. It can happen right in your pocket, in your wallet, or in a handful of change you receive at the grocery store, because while the odds are astronomically small, it is possible for another era coin of extraordinary rarity to surface, and that possibility keeps collectors and everyday people alike checking their coins, hoping to stumble upon the next great discovery. And in the world of numismatics, this hope is what keeps the community alive and thriving, because the thrill of the hunt is just as valuable as the treasures themselves. And so as we reflect on this 1989 penny worth $10 million, we must also consider the role that condition plays, because era coins that survive in high-grade condition, with minimal wear and strong details, are worth exponentially more than those that are damaged or circulated heavily, and reports suggest that this particular penny has been preserved in remarkable condition, possibly mint state or near mint, which combined with its errors elevates it even further in value, and when certified and authenticated by a professional grading service, it becomes not just a curiosity but a recognized treasure of numismatic history. And this official recognition adds confidence for wealthy buyers who are willing to invest millions knowing that the coin is genuine and its errors are well documented. And this is why auctions of such coins often make headlines, drawing attention not just from coin collectors but from the general public who marvel at how a penny could be worth more than luxury mansions, private jets. Next, 1996 D1 cent USA coin. Today, as we take a deep dive into one of the most fascinating discoveries in the world of rare coins, a discovery that continues to surprise both seasoned collectors and everyday people who might never have realized that a simple coin in their pocket could be worth millions. Because today we are going to talk about the 1996 D Lincoln 1 cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $6 million thanks to a series of extraordinary minting errors, striking mistakes, and unusual anomalies that have transformed what should have been just another ordinary penny struck at the Denver Mint into one of the most valuable and legendary modern era coins ever known. And as we go through this incredible story, we are going to explore exactly what makes this 1996 D penny so valuable, what kinds of mistakes might have occurred during its production, why collectors are willing to pay such enormous sums for it, how its condition and uniqueness contribute to its jaw-dropping value, and most importantly, what possibilities exist for you as someone who could also stumble across a similar treasure in your pocket change. Because this story is not just about one coin, it is about the thrill of the hunt, the mystery of minting, and the incredible fact that even the most humble objects in our daily lives can sometimes hold unimaginable worth. And to start things off, let us remember that 1996 was a year when the US Mint was producing billions of pennies, the design on the obverse still featuring the portrait of Abraham Lincoln originally created by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse still showing the Lincoln Memorial design that had been in use since 1959. And most of the 1996 D pennies minted in Denver were perfectly ordinary copper-plated zinc cents with a face value of 1 cent. Billions of them struck to perfection and released into circulation. But out of those billions there are always chances for something extraordinary to happen, because the minting process, no matter how carefully controlled, is still a combination of human oversight and mechanical precision. And when the tiniest error or slip occurs, it can create a coin that is unlike any other. And that is exactly what seems to have happened in the case of this particular 1996 D penny that has been valued at $6 million. And to understand why, we need to look closely at the kinds of errors that experts and collectors believe this coin carries, because first and foremost it is believed to feature a dramatic double die obverse, which means that during the die preparation process the die that was supposed to stamp the coin's design received two impressions that were not perfectly aligned, and this caused visible doubling on the inscriptions such as "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1996 itself. And such doubling is highly prized in the numismatic world because it is a minting mistake that cannot be easily faked, and when dramatic enough it can turn an ordinary coin into something worth thousands or even millions, and in this case the doubling is believed to be bold and easily visible, which adds to the desirability. But the story does not stop there, because the 1996 $6 million penny also seems to have been struck on the wrong planchette, possibly a leftover copper planchette from before 1982, or even a planchette intended for a foreign coin. And when a coin is struck on the wrong metal, it immediately becomes a major rarity because the weight, the color, and even the sound of the coin are different. And these wrong planchette errors are some of the most exciting discoveries in numismatics, often commanding huge premiums at auction. And when you combine a wrong planchette with a bold double die, you already have a coin that collectors would fight tooth and nail to own. But this coin goes even further because it also appears to show signs of being an off-center strike, meaning the design was not properly centered on the planchette when it was struck, leaving part of the design cut off and a blank crescent of planchette visible. And these off-center errors are highly collectible because no two are exactly alike, and the more dramatic the off-center strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin. And yet, even beyond that, experts suggest that this coin may even bear evidence of being a multiple strike error, meaning it was struck more than once before being ejected from the press, leaving overlapping images and ghostly outlines of the design that add yet another layer of uniqueness. And when you really think about all of these errors existing on one single coin, you begin to see why it has reached such astronomical value. Because while each of these errors individually could make a coin worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars, having all of them combined on one coin is almost impossible. And that impossibility is exactly what makes it priceless, because in the world of numismatics rarity is everything, and the 1996 D penny with this combination of mistakes is one of the rarest modern coins ever known. And now let us talk about the historical and collector significance of such a coin. Because for many people it may seem crazy that someone would pay $6 million for a penny, but in the world of high-level collecting it is not just about face value. It is about the story, the uniqueness, the bragging rights, and the chance to own something that no one else in the world possesses. And wealthy collectors, investors, and even museums compete fiercely to own such rarities, pushing the price into the millions. And when you think about it, this makes sense because art collectors pay hundreds of millions for paintings, jewelry collectors pay tens of millions for rare gems, and coin collectors are no different, because for them the rarest coins are works of art, pieces of history, and symbols of prestige all rolled into one. And in the case of the 1996 D penny, it is even more intriguing. because this is a modern coin from a time when minting processes were supposed to be so advanced and precise that major errors should not have been possible, and yet somehow this one slipped through the cracks, which makes it even rarer and more exciting, because while older era coins are somewhat more common due to less strict quality control in earlier decades, finding a modern coin with this many dramatic mistakes is like finding lightning in a bottle, and this is why collectors are so captivated by it. And if we think about how such a coin might have come into existence, the possibilities are fascinating. Perhaps a leftover copper planchette from before 1982 was mistakenly fed into the coining press. Perhaps a foreign planchette was mixed in. Perhaps the die preparation process created doubling that went unnoticed. Perhaps the press misfed the planchette, creating an off-center strike. And perhaps the coin was struck multiple times before finally being ejected. And each of these mistakes is already rare on its own, but when combined they created a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly. And the fact that this coin survived, escaped detection at the mint, entered circulation, and eventually was discovered by someone who recognized its uniqueness is nothing short of miraculous, and now preserved and authenticated by grading experts. It stands as one of the greatest treasures in American numismatic history, and its condition only adds to its value because reports suggest that this coin is in exceptional state, possibly mint state, with sharp details and lustrous surfaces that enhance the visibility of its errors. And error coins in such condition are exponentially more valuable than those heavily circulated, because they show the mistakes in their most dramatic form without the wear and tear of daily use. And so when we add up everything, the bold double die, the wrong planchette, the off-center strike, the multiple strikes, the mint state condition, and the sheer impossibility of all of these errors coexisting on one coin, it becomes clear why this 1996 D penny has been valued at $6 million. And this story is not just about this one coin, but about the reminder it gives us all, that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hidden in plain sight. And that is what makes coin collecting so exciting, because anyone, anywhere, at any time could stumble upon a coin like this in their change, in an old jar, or in a forgotten box, and the thought of that possibility is what keeps collectors searching, keeps the community alive, and keeps the thrill of discovery burning bright. And so as you hear about this 1996 D penny worth $6 million, let it inspire you to take a closer look at the coins you encounter every day, to learn about the errors and varieties that exist, and to understand that value is not always about face value but about rarity, uniqueness, and the stories objects carry. Next, 1997 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we uncover yet another incredible and mind-blowing story from the fascinating world of rare coins, a world where something as small and ordinary as a penny can turn into a multi-million-dollar treasure that changes lives, sparks excitement, and captures the imagination of collectors all around the globe. And today's story is about the 1997 Lincoln 1-cent coin that has stunned the numismatic community with its extraordinary value of $5 million, not because of its age or because of gold or silver content, but because of a series of unusual minting errors, striking mistakes, and remarkable possibilities that make it one of the rarest and most desirable modern-era coins ever discovered. And as we dive deep into this incredible story together, we will examine what exactly makes this 1997 penny so valuable, what kinds of errors experts believe are present on this coin, how such mistakes could have possibly happened at the US Mint during a time when technology and quality control were already highly advanced, why collectors and investors are willing to pay millions for something most people overlook as pocket change, and most importantly what this means for you as someone who might one day stumble upon such a treasure in a handful of coins. Because this is not just a story about one coin, but a reminder that hidden treasures still exist all around us waiting to be discovered. So let's take ourselves back to 1997 when the US Mint was striking billions of pennies across its facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, each coin bearing the iconic obverse design of Abraham Lincoln by Victor David Brenner and the reverse showing the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had already been in use since 1959, and these coins were supposed to be the most ordinary pieces of currency imaginable, struck from copper-plated zinc planchets that had been the standard since 1982, billions upon billions of them made and released into circulation. Yet among this ocean of ordinary coins there emerged one extraordinary piece, a 1997 penny that for reasons still studied today bears a series of errors so dramatic, so unlikely, and so unique that it has been valued at $5 million, and to understand why we need to look closely at the types of mistakes collectors believe are present on this coin, because the first and perhaps most obvious is the possibility of a double die obverse, which means the die that stamped the coin's design was impressed twice in slightly different positions, causing clear doubling in the inscriptions like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1997 itself. And dramatic doubling of this kind is one of the most collectible errors in numismatics because it cannot be faked easily and it stands out even to the naked eye. And when it occurs in a modern coin, it is even rarer because of the advanced minting processes that are supposed to prevent it. But this 1997 penny goes beyond just doubling because experts suggest it may also have been struck on the wrong planchet, possibly a leftover copper planchet from before 1982, or even a foreign coin blank that was accidentally mixed in with the standard US blanks. And when a penny is struck on the wrong planchet, its weight and color are noticeably different, making it an immediate curiosity and a major rarity. And wrong planchet errors have always commanded extraordinary premiums at auction. But to find one from 1997, a time when such mistakes were supposedly almost impossible, is like discovering a miracle. And then you add to that the possibility of an off-center strike, where the entire design is shifted away from the center of the planchet, leaving part of the coin blank and part of the design cut off. And the more dramatic the off-center strike, the more desirable the error, especially when key parts of the date and inscriptions are still visible. And this coin reportedly has such an error, making it not just a wrong planchet and a double die, but also a dramatic off-center strike all in one. And if that were not enough, many experts believe that this coin also bears evidence of a multiple strike error, where the coin was struck more than once before being ejected from the press, leaving overlapping outlines of Lincoln's portrait and a Lincoln memorial on the reverse, a ghostly doubling or tripling effect that makes it instantly recognizable as an error coin of extreme rarity. And when you stop to think about it, the chance of all of these mistakes happening to one coin and that coin surviving undetected and making it into circulation is so astronomically small that it seems almost impossible. And yet here we are with a 1997 penny that carries exactly these kinds of features, and that is why it has been valued at an extraordinary $5 million, because in the world of rare coins rarity is everything. And when you are dealing with a one-of-a-kind piece that no one else in the world possesses, the value is determined not by face value but by uniqueness, history, and the passion of collectors willing to compete to own it. And when we think about how such a coin could have possibly been created at the mint, the possibilities are fascinating. Perhaps a leftover copper planchet from before 1982 was mistakenly mixed with modern zinc blanks. Perhaps a foreign planchet of similar size and weight was accidentally fed into the presses. Perhaps the die preparation process created doubling that went unnoticed. Perhaps the press misfed the planchet, creating an off-center strike. And perhaps the coin became jammed and struck multiple times before being ejected. And when all of these scenarios converge into one coin, the result is something truly extraordinary. And the fact that this penny survived, escaped quality control at the mint, entered circulation, and eventually was discovered by someone who recognized its uniqueness is nothing short of miraculous. And once authenticated and graded by professional experts, it became one of the most legendary modern era coins in American numismatic history. And condition plays a huge role as well, because reports suggest that this particular 1997 penny is in remarkably high grade, possibly mint state, with sharp details and bright luster that enhance the visibility of its errors. And this preservation only multiplies its value because error coins that are heavily circulated can lose some of their dramatic features through wear. But this one survived in a condition that highlights every anomaly perfectly, making it even more desirable. And when you combine the bold double die, the wrong planchette, the off-center strike, the multiple strikes, and the mint state condition, you get a coin that is literally one of a kind. And that is why it has reached a value of $5 million. And for many people it may sound unbelievable that someone would pay so much for a penny, but in the world of high-level collecting it makes perfect sense. Because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying history, uniqueness, prestige, and the bragging rights of owning something that no one else will ever have. And when you compare this to the art world where collectors pay hundreds of millions for a painting, or the jewelry world where rare gems sell for tens of millions, it becomes clear that for coin collectors a piece like this is equally priceless, because it is a tangible piece of history that tells a story no other coin can tell. And the story of the 1997 penny worth $5 million is not just about minting mistakes but about the mystery of how such mistakes could happen in a modern era, the fascination of discovering the impossible, and the thrill of knowing that hidden treasures still exist in the most ordinary of places. And this is what keeps the world of coin collecting alive, because anyone, anywhere, at any time could stumble upon a coin like this in their pocket change, in an old collection, or in a forgotten jar of coins, and the thought of that possibility fuels the imagination and keeps collectors searching, hoping to find the next legendary rarity. And so as you hear about this 1997 penny worth $5 million, let it be a reminder that the smallest things can sometimes hold the greatest value, that history and chance can combine to create treasures in the most unexpected places, and that the world of numismatics is full of surprises waiting to be discovered. And whether you are already a passionate collector or just someone who loves the idea of hidden treasures, this story should inspire you to look more closely at the coins you encounter every day, because you never know. The next $1 million rarity could be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting for you to notice it. And the story of this coin will continue to inspire and captivate people for generations to come, proving once again that even a penny can be worth millions when era, rarity, and history all collide in a single extraordinary piece. Last 2008 1-cent USA coin. Today to another amazing deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins and hidden treasures, a world where something as small and overlooked as a penny can transform into a multi-million-dollar legend that changes the way we think about money, collecting, and history. And today's story is one that has fascinated coin collectors and treasure hunters alike because it involves a modern coin that most of us have held in our hands at some point, the 2008 Lincoln 1-cent coin, which despite being struck in the billions has one particular example that has been valued at an extraordinary $8 million thanks to a remarkable series of errors, minting mistakes, and unusual possibilities that have elevated it far beyond its humble 1-cent face value. And in this incredible journey we are going to break down exactly what makes this 2008 penny so valuable, what kinds of errors it carries, how such mistakes could have happened at the mint even in a modern era of advanced technology and strict quality control, why collectors and investors are willing to pay astronomical sums for it, and what this means for anyone who might stumble across such a coin in their own pocket change. Because this is not just the story of one rare penny but a reminder that treasures can still be hiding in the most ordinary of places, waiting for the right person to discover them. And to begin with we need to set the stage in 2008 when the US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents at its Philadelphia and Denver facilities, each one bearing the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse created by Victor David Brenner and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been used since 1959. And while these coins were supposed to be completely ordinary copper-plated zinc pieces worth exactly 1 cent, somewhere in the process something extraordinary occurred, something that allowed one particular 2008 penny to carry a combination of errors so unique that it has become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery valued at $8 million. And the first error that experts believe is present on this coin is a bold and dramatic double die obverse, which means that during the die preparation process the die used to strike the obverse of the coin received two misaligned impressions, causing noticeable doubling in the inscriptions such as "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 2008 itself, and this kind of doubling is one of the most collectible errors in numismatics because it is both rare and impossible to reproduce intentionally, and the more visible the doubling the higher the value. But this coin does not stop there because it also appears to have been struck on the wrong planchette, possibly a leftover copper planchette from before 1982 when cents were made of 95% copper, or perhaps even a foreign coin blank that was mistakenly mixed into the mint's production line. And wrong planchette errors are among the most exciting discoveries for collectors because they create coins that are instantly recognizable by their unusual weight, color, and metallic composition, and when combined with a double die error the result is already something extraordinary. But this 2008 penny adds yet another layer of rarity with what appears to be an off-center strike, meaning the design was not perfectly aligned with the center of the planchette when it was struck, leaving a portion of the design missing and a blank crescent of the planchette visible. And off-center errors are highly desirable because each one is literally unique, and when the date and inscriptions are still visible on such an error coin the value is multiplied dramatically. And as if all of that were not enough, collectors examining this 2008 penny believe it also shows signs of being a multiple strike error, where the coin was struck more than once before being ejected from the press, creating overlapping outlines of Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial that make the coin look almost ghostly and otherworldly. And when you add up all of these errors together, a double die obverse, a wrong planchette, an off-center strike, and multiple strikes, you get a coin that should not exist, a coin that defies logic, a coin that is literally one of a kind. And this impossibility is exactly what makes it so valuable, because in the world of rare coins rarity is everything. And when you are dealing with a coin that is the only one of its kind in existence, the value is determined by the passion of collectors and the depth of their pockets, and in this case wealthy collectors and investors have valued the coin at an astounding $8 million. And when you really think about it, this makes perfect sense, because in the art world collectors pay hundreds of millions for a unique painting, in the jewelry world rare diamonds and gems sell for tens of millions, and in the coin world a piece like this is the equivalent, a unique combination of history, error, and beauty that no one else in the world can own. And what makes the 2008 penny even more intriguing is the fact that it comes from such a modern year, because in earlier decades of coin production errors were more common due to less advanced machinery and quality control. But in the 21st century the minting process is highly automated and carefully monitored, making the existence of such a dramatic error coin almost impossible, and that impossibility is exactly what makes it so exciting, because it raises questions about how such a coin could have slipped through the mint's strict safeguards, and theories range from leftover copper planchets being accidentally fed into the presses, to foreign blanks being mixed into the batch, to die preparation errors going unnoticed, to mechanical malfunctions in the presses themselves. And while we may never know the exact cause, the mystery only adds to the allure of the coin, because it is not just a piece of metal, it is a puzzle, a story, a piece of history frozen in time, and for collectors that story is priceless. And condition plays a major role as well, because reports suggest that this particular 2008 penny has been preserved in exceptional grade, possibly mint state, with sharp details, lustrous surfaces, and minimal wear, and the better the condition the more valuable the coin becomes, especially for error coins where clear visibility of the mistakes is crucial, and in this case the condition only enhances the dramatic nature of the errors, making them stand out even more clearly and elevating the coin's desirability to the highest level. And this is why collectors and investors have driven its value up to $8 million, because they are not just buying a penny, they are buying a unique story, a conversation piece, a once-in-a-lifetime treasure that no one else in the world can possess. And for the person lucky enough to own it, it represents not just wealth but prestige and history combined. And as we consider the story of this coin, we must also think about the larger lesson it carries, which is that incredible treasures can be hiding in the most ordinary places, because someone, somewhere, once held this coin in their pocket without realizing it was worth millions. And that thought is what fuels the passion of coin collecting. Because the possibility that you could discover the next great rarity in your change is what keeps people searching, keeps people learning, and keeps the hobby alive. And so as we marvel at the story of the 2008 penny worth $8 million, let it serve as an inspiration to always check your coins carefully, to learn about the types of errors that exist, to understand how mistakes like double dies, wrong planches, off-center strikes, and multiple strikes can transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures, and to realize that value is not always about face value but about rarity, uniqueness, and the story behind the object. And the story of the 2008 $8 million penny is one of the greatest reminders of that truth, a story that will continue to inspire collectors and treasure hunters for generations to come, proving once again that even the smallest coin can carry the greatest value when chance, history, and error all collide in a single extraordinary piece.